Well, we're now joined by Arise News correspondent Anieze Osakwe, who is part of the Arise News team at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Anieze, so good to have you on Newsnight now. Well, you were at the Nigeria House today when the Minister of Trade and Vice President made appearances. Tell us more about what they said. I mean, it was interesting to hear the Vice President say that Nigeria is serious and ready.
Absolutely. It's good to be with you as well. And I think the theme of today's event was one of pride and one of celebrations. So we already knew coming into this that Nigeria would have a very robust presence at this year's economic forum, and they delivered. I mean, before today's events, we knew that the Nigerian delegation would be led by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, as well as the Minister of Trade, Jumoke Oduwole, and also the Minister of Finance. Now, we didn't see the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, today, but we did hear that speech that you played an excerpt from the Vice President, as well as the Minister of Trade. She sort of spoke in the moments before the Vice President spoke. And I think a really key point that both of them made was, like you said, the fact that Nigeria is open for business. And interestingly enough, after the ribbon cutting, after the speeches, the Vice President actually took some time to kind of speak with myself and a few other members of the press. And one question that I asked him was, you know, the President just came back from the UAE, the Sustainability Summit. Now we have Nigeria's massive delegation here in Switzerland. What message is Nigeria trying to send with all of these foreign trips? And he said just that, the fact that Nigeria is open for business. He talked a lot about Nigeria's position as the most populous and the most powerful Black nation on earth. And it was really interesting to kind of hear the Vice President use this Black power rhetoric when referring to Nigeria. But that's essentially how he feels. He recognizes that Nigeria is a country that has strength in numbers. And that's essentially what this administration is really trying to capitalize on through these trips that they're taking all around the world. Another interesting thing that he said in his speech, and when I was speaking to him after his speech, is the fact that he said, and I quote, "The president took a bullet when he enacted that fuel subsidy." And I think that was striking rhetoric to use, but I think he was really just trying to emphasize how much of a strong reaction the entire country had to that decision, and how every single member of President Tinubu's administration has essentially been trying to build off of that, build the economy off of the fact that the president canceled this fuel subsidy, and now they're going around on this international world tour to essentially attract new business, attract new investments, and build Nigeria's economy into what they think should be essentially the strongest and the anchor of Africa.
Fantastic. Anieze, let's just shift gears very quickly. With what is going on, geopolitical tensions around the globe, technological advancement, AI, and all of that, where does climate change stand in Davos 2026? Anieze, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Great. Okay, so I was just asking you, I mean, where is the conversation when it comes to climate change with all that is going on in the world, geopolitics, the advancement of technology, and all you have? And should Africa even be participating in conversations like that when we largely depend on fossil fuels?
So what's interesting is the fact that I think that historically, the World Economic Forum here in Davos has really focused so much on climate change. The fact that despite the fact that so many billionaires and wealthy people come here, maybe they'll be flying in their private jets, but climate change has really always been at the forefront of this forum. But for the first time this year, that's not necessarily the case. And this is something that I talked about with our business correspondent, Rotis, on his show earlier today, the fact that this is the first time that the World Economic Forum put out this report called the Global Sustainability Risk Report. And it essentially talks to different leaders, experts, academics about what they think are the top priorities or the biggest risks that are posed to humanity. And climate change, global warming had always kind of been at the top of that list, but for the first time, it fell in terms of what people are prioritizing. And what rose is, war, geopolitical tensions, the economy. So these are really the topics that have essentially taken the front burner, whereas climate change has taken the back burner. And I think it's important to kind of keep climate change in the conversation, especially for us as African countries, because we know that we disproportionately kind of feel the effects of it, and it's something that we don't even need to look too far off from. We know that whenever it rains in Lagos, the entire city comes to a standstill. We know that hundreds of people died in the Mokwa floodings earlier last year in Niger State. We know that, in places like Abuja, a lot of states in the northern part of the country, they experience drought, extreme heat, which has a ripple effect on our food systems, food prices. So climate change is something that people may not necessarily want to talk about because they're not maybe seeing it in their daily lives. But every once in a while, we know that it happens. We know when rainy season is. We know when Harmattan is. And I think that the fact that it's kind of taken a back seat this year, it's something that we should be aware of, and we should kind of work to push more back into the conversation, because it's very important, especially for us in the African continent and Nigeria as well.
Anieze, before I let you go, if we have one more minute, I mean, the issue of the growing gap between rich and poor, and of course AI's impact on jobs and geo-economic conflict, those issues are definitely on the table. What do you have to say about that in 30 seconds, if you can?
Yeah, I think very quickly, those topics are so interesting. I mean, we know how prevalent AI has become in society, in the Western world, as well as the developing world as well. But as we're building up on our knowledge of artificial intelligence and our use of ChatGPT, I think it's really critical for institutions, for nations, for leaders to not forget that education around it is so important as well. I think that, it's very easy to kind of use AI as a crutch, and it kind of creates a lackadaisical attitude around a lot of things that people might have thought of a little bit more in the past. So I think that as we kind of grow towards more technology, more digitalization, and increased use of AI, we need to kind of balance that out with reminding people that, we can still use our brains every once in a while as well. So it's about striking that balance between the two.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you couldn't have put it any better.
Very well said, Anieze Osakwe. We look forward to your reporting from Davos. Thank you so much. Anieze Osakwe is only one of the trio of Arise News correspondent on ground at the WEF 2026, bringing us updates.